questions. I would like to then go down to my right to
from a region that is of great strategic
predictability, and I will, it's a simple idea. If we will delta R, the result should be a constant. The higher is the risk, the lower is predictable evolution, the accelerated evolution that we are living in. I think if you look at
see whether there is anyone around the table who wishes to comment. I think we have time for maybe one or two questions.
If you have a risk of a nuclear destruction, you have deterrence. Therefore, you have stability.
Round for the agenda of the Munich Security Conference in February is not between the two negotiating teams, so to speak, as was just explained by the President. So bear with us.
it has done to some of the frozen conflicts that have been around for quite a long time, and he's recently just ensuring that these conflicts remain frozen for the foreseeable future.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ischinger. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. It's really a privilege for me, dear colleagues, excellencies, to be here today and to share with you some of my thoughts. Definitely, it's not going to be a statement of a president related to the issues and connected to current situation and the future of the Republic of Armenia. But as an honest member of this panel, I would like to share you some of my impressions that I've got here. First of all, I would like to congratulate and thank Munich Security Conference for organizing this conference here in Minsk. And I would like to extend also my thanks to our Belarusian friends and colleagues, especially to President Lukashenko for bringing us to this country and to see and learn about the achievements of the country and creating the environment which is very friendly for the discussions. As I said, it's not going to be a statement about the issues related to Republic of Armenia. I'm not going to speak about our relations with Turkey. I'm not going to speak about our relations with Azerbaijan and the conflict of Nagorno-Karabakh, although we are in this wonderful city of Minsk, and the OSCE group that is handling the negotiations for peace in related and resolution of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has the name of Minsk Group, and I hope one day that group will achieve a peace, and in Minsk they will sign a peace accord. When that happens, I don't know. Will it happen during my presidency or after? I hope sooner than later. And I was quite encouraged, Wolfgang, yesterday during the lunch when I saw the President of Kosovo and the Prime Minister of Serbia talking both very cautiously, diplomatically, and creating the impression that they are honestly seeking for peace. I think that was a great achievement. I would like to continue or to say some comments related to the ideas that I heard this couple of days. And yesterday in his speech, President Lukashenko emphasized one specific word, which is called stability. For me, stability is also connected with another word which is called predictability. I think if you don't have stability, you cannot predict what can happen tomorrow. And the other theme was announced yesterday as well, was about multipolar world. I mean, bipolar world becoming single polar, then bipolar again, tripolar, quadrupolar, and eventually probably multipolar. That shows the tendency of the world going into a more sort of a world where there will be more stakeholders and more voices heard rather than one or two or three. And of course, for me, it was interesting to hear, Wolfgang, your comment on where do smaller countries stand in between the confrontations or discussions or competition of bigger ones. And is it about or that the smaller ones, that they don't have voice? Or it's the other way around as well, that the smaller ones will have their contribution in global security and peace? In order to answer these questions, I'll try to make a point, and maybe I'll just try to make the point that this world is changing. The world is changing rapidly. And if one would hear what was discussed here yesterday, today, and I think the impression would be that the only threats that we have on security is arms and arms control. And of course, the previous discussion was an important one about strategic arms. But the way I see it, this world is changing so fast that one of the challenges will be the technological achievements and changes are going to be faster that we probably can negotiate terms how to handle them. In order to make it simpler, or I'm a former mathematician, let me try to make it simpler. I think the key words will be probably predictability, and it's a simple idea. If we take the change of predictability, I call it delta P. And the other component which is important, risk, I call it delta R. So if you multiply delta P with delta R, the result should be a constant. The higher the risk, the lower is predictability. And predictability is stability. I think if you take predictability as a function, one of the components is stability, the other one is time, the third is development, and so on and so forth. And now, if you want to be thinking about a stable world or think about stability or predictability, of course you have to pay attention to something called risks, because they define your stability and predictability. And if I look at the risks of the 21st century, they are different. And I like calling them quantum, not because quantum in the sense that the laws of quantum physics can be applied to them, but quantum mentioning that they are different from the classical ones. So the risks that we are facing today are different radically from the risks that we were facing in 20th century, and even the risks that we were facing, let's say, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And the reason for that, most probably, is the evolution, the accelerated evolution that we are living in. I think if you look at the history, we had the first industrial revolution. It took probably 100 years until we recognized that we are revolutionized, and that basically the effects of research, development, science, and technology became relevant and important and influential. Then the next revolution took another 50 years, and the one 30, and the one after will be around 10 years, and so on. So we are exponentially going in our development, and development not only in technology, but also many other activities of humans. So that's why I call it quantum, because it's radically different. And the question is going to be, are we going to go harmoniously, basically real time with the development of technology and new approaches, while we are so slowly going backwards in our negotiations from strategic arms to simple arms control. And that brings me to another issue which is important. The next panel is going to be about regional conflicts. It looks like, well, we have these big issues to resolve. We have global issues on arms control and other, while we are going to bother by smaller conflicts. It's 21st century. I think small can be dangerous. And if we look at the risks, again, their quantum behavior, we have seen that in many aspects. For example, years ago, when we're talking at the World Economic Forum to describe the global risks, we had a list of initial 30 issues. Out of that, we chose, there was a group, I was a member of that group, we basically took several of them, like strategic arms control, that then we were speaking about the strong decline of Chinese economy that could be a global risk. Then basically the breakdown of international financial system, for example, based on dollar, or the basically breakdown of international banking sector, which eventually happened in a form of a financial crisis. But there were just a couple of them. Out of 30, 35, we chose 5 or 4 or 6. When I tried to do the same exercise now, first of all, the 30 became 50 or 60, including things that are not small enough, starting from cybersecurity, I mean demographics, migration, and so on and so forth. And the second is when we tried with some friends, colleagues, to make it the short list of it. The short list was never 5 or 6, it was a dozen of it. And we have to recognize that the threats to security worldwide are much more wider than arms and arms control, even the strategic and nuclear ones, because of the change of the behavior of global risks. If you take global risk, for example, pandemic, it's a quantum behavior. It starts somewhere in Hong Kong, the next one is in Argentina or in Africa. It's not nearby village, and it doesn't travel with the speed of the horse of a car. It jumps quantumly from one place to another place. So it can become a global risk very rapidly. Look at terrorism. It's a similar behavior at the end of the day. To compare that, I will bring you an example of nuclear fusion. So you have to have a critical mass, and that critical mass could be a big mass of unhappy people for this or that reason. It can be religiously unhappy, they can be any other reason, but there's a big critical mass, and it's not necessarily they are all in one place, they are global. And then you have to have 1 or 2 particles with energy. That energy could be very high, negative, and it can hit one of the atoms of that critical mass. What happens? It splits the atom, then the other electrons will go further, and they will hit the other atoms, and you will have a chain reaction. If you look at the behavior of pandemics or terrorism worldwide, it has a sort of a tendency or quality of being a chain reaction, because at the end of the day, the terrorists today, they don't have to know Mr. Bin Laden personally or be a part of his organization. They are just a part of the chain reaction at the very end. And this world which is globalized, with an interconnection and connectivity, the speed of that is providing a space and an environment for that sort of behaviors. So the small can be beautiful, or the small can be dangerous. So the risks that we are facing now, the new risks that we are facing now is cyber. It looks like it's virtual, it's somewhere else, but the damage that it can do, it's horrific. And how do you handle that? How do you stop terrorism? Or you cannot handle a chain reaction by taking a hammer and hitting a piece of uranium which is radioactive. You cannot. The solution is put that uranium into an environment that will absorb the energy, the negative energy. So that's a hint to us how to handle global risks of the 21st century. Not with a classical method, but with the methods which are new and different. How do you handle the cybersecurity? Where are the agreements? And cybersecurity, as we know, that it doesn't have boundaries. So this world becomes one at the end of it. It's not only intervening in other people's lives or in other people's voting or other people's systems, it can be a source of a global risk. So the point that I want to make here is the world is changing, and the global risks are much more wider, unfortunately, and again, unfortunately, than just arms, even strategic arms, even biological arms, even nuclear arms. There is a huge number of factors that are becoming more and more important. Demographics is another. Migration is another. They are and there will become, and among them are also regional conflicts, the theme of the next panel here. I mean, we can ignore regional conflicts, so like in the old joke when a rich guy is in a church and praying to God, God, please give me $1 million. I want to do this, I want to do that, I'll give a part to charity. And a poor guy enters the church and comes and started praying to God. God, give me $100, I'm poor, I don't have enough money for food, and so on. So there are different ends to this joke. The one happy end is that the rich guy listens to him, gives him $100 and said, don't bother God, I have something more important to talk to him. So the poor guy gets his $100 and is happy and goes away. God has hurt him. or the rich guy doesn't hear and started shouting or organizing that he gets out of his way. Eventually, God will not give him the $1 million. So the story tells us that all voices have to be listened by God, both the small and the big ones. And in the new world of 21st century, where we are going to face multiple threats and risks, smaller, even frozen conflicts can become a source of a bigger headache and a problem. So there is a threat that if we don't resolve them, it will become much bigger. See what happened in Syria. At the end of it, it started as an internal problem, grew up a fight for a better country, democracy, fighting corruption, or maybe different opinions of how to run the country, but eventually it became a huge headache for everybody. So my point is that we have to be very careful with smaller frozen conflicts. They can become dangerous, including the one that my country and my nation is facing, which is the issue of the problem of Nagorno-Karabakh. And I hate to say that, unfortunately, what is happening in the region is higher militarization. I think the world with stability was much better place some 20 years ago. President Lukashenko gave a word saying he would love to see Europe more united and stronger and stable. I agree with him, because stronger European Union, stronger international organizations, stronger superpowers that know how to speak to each other, they are creating the framework. Or again, if I take the example of physics, they are the external magnetic fields. They are keeping things in order. The moment you take these magnetic fields away, what you will get a little bit of a chaos, and that chaos can create particles with high speed going and hitting another atom, creating another chain reaction. Sorry for the comparison, but we are there that we have to be extremely careful. And I will basically raise my voice to all participants and the big states to stop the militarization of smaller conflicts, including the one which is in Nagorno-Karabakh. And this, on a very small territory, both the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan and Armenia have and are creating huge number of arms. They are not nuclear, but they are getting more and more complex ones. Because as I said, technology grows very fast. And that lethal weapons can be dangerous not only for the ones who are conflicting, it can become very, very dangerous for the whole region. I would love to continue because this is a wonderful opportunity to address colleagues from the Munich Security Conference, but I know that there is one important thing which is the one important and most important value in our lives, it's time. You can buy anything. I think you can even achieve peace in this world. But unfortunately, we cannot stop time. So I stop here. I will start with a small comment on legitimacy. As a President of the Republic, well, I don't think that I can accept any judgment of legitimacy or interpretation of the Armenian Constitution by someone else except the citizens of Republic of Armenia. And as a guardian of that constitution, I would leave to the people of Armenia to judge who is legitimate in Armenia and who is not. That's a small comment. Now, on the legitimacy side, I would like just to take you for a small time travel back 6 months ago when Armenia had the revolution. It's a unique one, where the people of Armenia have expressed their wish in a very open way. It's unique also that we managed to have a major change, which is called Revolution Armenian style or a Velvet Revolution, without bloodshed or anything. And of course that process continues with a lot of support from the public. Probably you know that soon, in a month and a half probably, we will have new parliamentary elections in Armenia. That will be, I'm sure, open, fair elections that will create a strong, legitimate parliament and a government. That's very important when you are talking about negotiating a deal. Those who are negotiating have to have real mandate from their own people to be able to negotiate any compromise there. Now, of course, it's difficult for me to resist to tell you that the revolution in Armenia was 21st century, one as a quantum one as well. It started with a critical mass of unhappiness of people and a couple of young opposition leaders who were the initial energy led by the current prime minister and even Mr. Grigoryan, who was one of them. And at the end of the day, these initial high energy particles had created the chain reaction. It was like a chain reaction. That is why it was successful, but a chain reaction in a positive way. Now, I do agree that it's very important to use the language of peace. That was one of the reasons that I tried to avoid representing the Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh case here when I didn't have the counterpart sitting in front of me. But it's not only the language of peace is important, I think what is also important is acting for peace. You can have the best language of peace, either it will be true or false, but your action, your deeds will be the ones that will show are you really talking peace or you are just talking peace in peace. So acting for peace is important. About time, Mr. Kartunov, I have high respect for you, for your brave and 21st century mind. And I agree with you, time is important, but we know also that time is relative. If the time is working for peace, then it can be long. So we can wait if the time is working for peace. But if the time is working for war, then that time is really short. And we have to be aware of that. And does it work for peace or short for me, for example? I am really concerned when I look at the militarization of the Azeri side, the amount of money and effort that is put by Azeri side as the Azerbaijan Republic in order to build up and strengthen their military capabilities. I think when you look at that, it doesn't look like that the time is working for peace. It looks like that we can basically face another problem. Has the chain reaction started there? No. Is there a possibility that it will start? Yes. What should we do? I think we have to start not only talking, but also acting for peace. And the time is right, at least from the Armenian side, as I told previously. Armenia has and will have soon even more legitimate government and leaders that will be able to negotiate a peace with Azerbaijan. And here, in this framework, I would like to remind also that we can refer to history. When Armenia is an old nation, thousands of years, we just celebrated the 2800th anniversary of our capital city. So we can also understand how old is Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh as an Armenian historic area. But it's not about history. It's not about even current history. It's not about also about magic that one day you wake up and you have a piece of land given to you and then you start believing that it's yours like in a fairy tale. But it's all about the will of people. And at the end of the day, the will of people is the one thing that matters. And from that point of view, and that people of Nagorno-Karabakh or Artsakh have spoken, and I think we have to listen to them carefully. We have to listen to them carefully and work hard in order to get the final peace. And here I would like to, again and again, to thank the OSCE for their efforts. For years, I mean, not a full peace, but at least a situation where we didn't have a war or a chain reaction was handled by the OSCE Minsk group, and we're thankful to that. And as Mr. Grigorian also mentioned, there is only one way of solving that, and that's a peaceful way. There is no military solution to this conflict. If there'll be military activity, everybody will suffer. People of Karabakh, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the whole region. So there's only one solution, which is the peaceful one. And again, that peaceful solution could be reached through the Minsk group of the OSCE. Thank you very much.